No, this does not in any way relate to Disney or Disney Plus, but here's two things. One, I've never gone through an entire theme month without making videos that have no way any relation to the actual theme. So, there. Second, this was a video I meant to put up a long time ago, but I've pretty much delayed it until now. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, based on the comic of the same name, was adapted into a Netflix series a few years ago, and my sort of review of the first season is in the form of a movie face off against season 1 of Riverdale. Now, with part 3 here, it's time I talk about part 2, more of a traditional review kind of sense. So, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Part 2 focuses on Sabrina discovering more of her powers, more of the entire traditions and culture that comes with being a witch. Father Blackwood is, of course, an antagonist. Her friends dealing with the fallout and revelation of her being a witch. And yeah, if you're familiar with the show at all, you've seen part one and you enjoyed it. Part two is more or less the same kind of style and such. So there isn't really too much in terms of comparison between seasons one and two, but there's still a couple things that have stuck with me a little bit. The first one is in terms of Theo. So yeah, in part two, one of Sabrina's friends, who is female, at least she was in season one, has now come to the action of identifying as a guy. Yeah, there are some people who don't like having their shows and movies having obvious social themes and messages and such, but it doesn't really come much into play in season two. I mean, it's addressed, it's identified, obviously, but there really isn't much of a storyline with with him in season two that's about like LGBT themes and ideologies and messages. It's just addressed. It's a part of the show. Let's move on. Might be a little bit of a simplification for how they executed that, but if it's if we're gonna choose between putting in the show and being obsessively focused on it, and the other option being introducing it, not doing that much with it, it might be a little distracting, but yeah, that's just how it is in season two. Didn't really take away my enjoyment of the show at all, so I'm fine with it. The one thing that has kind of stuck with me, more of an irritation, so to speak, was what season 2 ultimately became about. And this is a problem that's not really contained to just this show. Any show that deals with fantasy elements or supernatural kind of stuff, at some point in the show's run, they're going to have to do their own take on the apocalypse, the end of days. And sometimes when a show does their take on that, it doesn't always mean that's the end of the show itself. I mean, Supernatural did their big traditional apocalypse story in season 5, and they're only going to end now after season 15 wraps up later this year. They've gone through multiple apocalypses. But having it in season 2 for Sabrina, yeah, it's not really introduced right away at the start of season 2, but it also became about stopping a prophecy where Sabrina plays a role in enslaving mortals and witches to Satan the Dark Lord, and basically its own version of an apocalypse. It's weird to have that happen in season two. I mean, that's really so soon. And for those of you who probably argue, well, technically it's not season two, it's really season one part two. Like that's still super goddamn early. So yeah, it was kind of weird. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still stuff that's set up at the end of season two that will be carried on through season three, like Sabrina and her friends trying to find a way to bring Nick out of hell and find a new prison for Lucifer. Lilith becoming Queen of Hell, what that might look like. Zelda and Hilda taking on being the high priestesses of the new Church of Night, and Ambrose and Prudence hunting down Father Blackwood. So there was definitely stuff set up for season three, but after you do the apocalypse, what can you do in terms of like big storytelling in this show? So I'm not gonna talk anything about season three. I'm still in the middle of watching it. I already have some thoughts, but I'm gonna want to wait to see how it ends. Because okay, let's say that for a different video. But season two was still all in all pretty good. A little weird to have the apocalypse so soon, but I have faith that they seem to have some other big plans in terms of the show's long run. At least I'm hoping so. That's all I really have for this. Like, subscribe, share. See you guys next time.